While we're all waiting for Avengers Endgame to change our lives forever, Marvel Studios is already working on the next batch of MCU films. One of the Phase 4 films might change the MCU forever, and it includes an epic war among gods and immortal beings. That movie is The Eternals, and it might not only reshape the MCU's history, it may also reveal a huge connection between the Infinity Stones and the cosmic gods known as the Celestials. The Celestials are some of the most interesting beings in the comics, and we think that if the MCU explores more about them, we might get some connections between the cosmic gods and many other elements in the MCU lore. The Celestials are extremely powerful beings, and many of them are massive giants that tower above 2,000 feet. While they're considered cosmic gods, in the comics they never got as popular as some other well-known Marvel aliens and beings, such as the Asgardians, the Skrulls, or the Kree. We guess that being a cosmic god the size of the Burj Khalifa isn't cool enough for some people. But in all seriousness, the Celestials had a hand in some major events in the Marvel Universe. In fact, they've had a major connection to Earth and its people. They've been visiting our little blue planet for billions of years, and their shaping of sentient life led to the birth of a certain finger-snapping titan. But the real question is, what's the connection between the Celestials and the Infinity Stones? Well, due to constant reboots, retcons, and endless changes and adjustments in the Marvel Comics, you'll probably need an actual PhD to really understand the Celestials. We're guessing that because of these reasons, the MCU usually doesn't follow the comics beat for beat. The great minds at Marvel Studios usually pick and choose elements from different storylines, and they adjust them to fit their stories better. So it's safe to say that when and if we see the Celestials in full force in the MCU, their stories will be shifted a bit to fit the current MCU stories. The first time we saw the Celestials in the MCU was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which, funny enough, was also the first time we got an explanation about the Infinity Stones. The Guardians traveled to nowhere, where they were planning to sell the Power Stone to the Collector. This is when we officially learned about the Infinity Stones. While the Collector was giving the Guardians a crash course about the stones, we saw a recording of a giant being using the Power Stone to destroy an entire planet. That being is a Celestial called Eson the Searcher, and the fact that he used the Power Stone to mow down an entire civilization is the connection between the Celestials and the Infinity Stones in the MCU. Not only that, there's another interesting Celestials connection here, and it's the actual location of where the whole scene takes place. Nowhere isn't just a place, but it's also the head of a dead Celestial. We think it just can't be a coincidence that in the very scene where we learned about the Infinity Stones, we're also introduced to a Celestial using one of the stones. Not to mention that the whole thing takes place inside a dead Celestial's head. The Infinity Stones always played a major role in the films, but other than their inception and power, we never found out too much about their history. The stones were created with the Big Bang. That's billions of years in between their creation and the time they finally showed up in the MCU. Every time we were introduced to a new stone, they were always hidden, and most of them were housed inside a special container. We never found out who hid the stones or who placed them inside their vessels, but adding the Celestials to the mix might give us some answers. It's very possible that at some point in the MCU's history, the Celestials got their hands on the 6 stones and saw the benefit of using them. And having stones that can manipulate elements like time, space, and reality is something that even beings that are older than the universe itself might find useful. Now, before you tell us that we don't know our comics, we know that the one above all is a Celestial, and he's considered to not only be omnipotent, but also the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe. That's very true, but it's unclear if we'll ever see the one above all in the MCU, and considering the MCU depowers some characters in order to work better with their stories, it's possible that not all the Celestials are as powerful as the one above all. Over the course of millions upon millions of years, the Celestials have been traveling the stars, shaping and molding sentient life across the universe. They're known as cosmic gods for a reason after all, and they had their hands in countless evolutions of living beings, including our own. The Celestials first arrived on Earth during the Stone Age, where they started shaping life and doing genetic experiments on humans. All of that resulted in the creation of 2 new species, the Eternals and the Deviants. Both races had great powers, but while the Eternals were long-lived and peaceful, the Deviants were hostile. The Eternals had a human appearance, while the Deviants were considered monsters due to their appearance, and the 2 races didn't play nice with each other. And what do you know? We'll be getting an Eternals movie in Phase 4. In recent months, it became became clear that the Eternals movie is shaping up to be something really cool, and we can't wait to see what Marvel Studios will come up with. While we haven't seen any Eternals or Deviants in the MCU, we did see an Eternal Deviant hybrid, and it's our favorite Mad Titan, Thanos. This was confirmed mostly in Infinity War. When we first met Red Skull in the film, he referred to Thanos as the son of Alars. In the comics, Alars was an Eternal, and also the father of Thanos, so it adds up. In a recent interview, Kevin Feige suggested that the Eternals plot might span thousands of years, meaning that the film could add a lot to the MCU's history and lore. The Eternals movie might be the key to understanding more about the Celestials, but it could also be a great way to explore the connection between the cosmic gods and the Infinity Stones. And so, if we roll with the idea that the Celestials were the original owners of the Infinity Stones, we can see some very interesting story points in the Eternals movie. In the comics, the Celestials don't just stay on one planet forever. They do their shaping of life and then they move on and return thousands of years later to inspect their progress. If the Celestials deem a race they manipulated as a failure, they just wipe said race out and start over. We did see Eson the Searcher using the Power Stone to possibly do just that. It's possible that the Celestials got their hands on the stones, something that had corrupted them. We did see Ego trying to reshape the whole universe into his own image, so other Celestials might have shared that sentiment. What if, upon their return to Earth, the Celestials decided that the human race is a failure, and decided to wipe out all life on Earth? It's possible that an alliance of powerful beings rose against the cosmic gods in order to save humanity. Don't forget that Earth's one of the 9 realms under the protection of Asgard, and it's possible that when the Celestials returned to Earth, they came to blows with the Asgardians, who wouldn't just stay and watch a realm under their protection get wiped out. It's also possible that other beings fought alongside Asgard, like the gods of Olympus and the sorcerers of Earth. The Asgardians aren't the only mythological gods in the Marvel Universe. There are also the Olympians. Both actually united against the Celestials in the comics at one point. Introducing the gods of Olympus will be a cool way to add Hercules to the MCU, who's a major player in the comics and a member of the Avengers. Since this war will be taking place in the past, we could see the return of Odin, who will be leading the charge against the cosmic gods. And let's not forget that Odin did have a connection to the Infinity Stones himself. After all, he did have a fake gauntlet in his vault. We could also see the Ancient One showing up, along with many other dead characters that were alive during the time like Hela, Heimdall, and many more. The Eternals themselves might be the key for saving humanity from the Celestials. While at first the Eternals might refuse to revolt against their creators, the realization that the Celestials want to wipe humanity out might cause the Eternals to join the battle and turn the tide in favor of the protectors of Earth. After the battle is all done, we could see the alliance of the ancient heroes stripping the Celestials of the Infinity Stones before kicking them out of our galaxy. Realizing that the stones are too dangerous, the Eternals might take charge and hide them across the galaxy. It's been established that the Asgardians have some connection to the stones. In Captain America: The First Avenger, the Red Skull referred to the Space Stone as the Jewel of Odin's treasure room. So it's possible that Odin was charged with protecting the Space Stone, but the Allfather eventually decided to hide it on Earth for some reason. Maybe he did so after Hela became too dangerous as a way of keeping the stone away from the goddess of death. The Time Stone somehow ended up in the hands of the sorcerers of Earth, as it was hidden inside the Eye of Agamotto, which might be due to the sorcerer's part in the war against the Celestials. The rest of the stones were hidden in other places, and it's possible that the Eternals were responsible for the hiding. After all, someone had to create the clues for how to get the Soul Stone that required a terrible sacrifice. This could also explain how Thanos got his hands on the Mind Stone. Every time we're introduced to a new Infinity Stone of the MCU, we also saw how they were uncovered, or where they were hidden. But by the time we first saw the Mind Stone, then hidden inside Loki's scepter, the Mad Titan already had it in his possession. Maybe after the war with the Celestials, the Eternals kept the Mind Stone with them, since the Yellow Stone is one of the most dangerous among them all. The Mind Stone can manipulate minds. If Titan was an Eternals colony, then it's possible that following the fall of Titan, Thanos took the stone for himself. Having such a boost to the history and lore of the MCU could be very cool, and could set the Eternals up as major players in Phase 4 and beyond. For all we know, they might even show up in Endgame and help the Avengers, if this connection between the Infinity Stones and the Celestials is true. Of course, it's possible that we're basing this whole theory on a fun little Easter egg in Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe we are, but even if that was just a fun Easter egg, you have to admit that the possibility of a connection could be awesome, and we hope that at least some of the things we suggested will take place in the Eternals movie. Either way, it'll be interesting to say the least. Well, that was something. Our imagination was in overdrive for sure. But what do you think about all of this? Do you think there's a connection between the Celestials and the Infinity Stones? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos. Thanks for watching.